Hi, it's Dr Nicole from Shy Tiger. Let's talk about how to deal with torn nails. So as pet parents, torn nails are just something we often have to deal with, whether it's an accident at the park or you've unfortunately just trimmed the nail a little bit too short. It's just one of those things that we have to know what to do. So Rhiannon's going to give us a bit of assistance here with going through the steps of what to deal with. What we'll go through first is having a look at a nail and actually just talking about the structure of the nail, because I think understanding that will give you a little bit of confidence. Dogs have that hardened outer cuticle to their nail, the hardened outer shell. That's actually a bit like us, insensitive. It's under the shell that they have something called a quick, which has the nerve and blood supply, and that's the painful part. So if you see a bit of dangling nail and there's no blood, then you can be quite confident just to trim that little bit back and you shouldn't be causing any pain. But let's assume that we have a bleeding nail and we have to deal with it. So the first thing that we need to do when we're dealing with a bleeding nail is we need to control the bleeding. So we'll use a face washer or something similar, and we're going to put pressure on the nail for 5 minutes. This is longer than a skin wound. Nails unfortunately do take a bit more effort to control their bleeding. So the next thing we need to do once we've controlled the bleeding is decide if we need to trim back a bit of the nail. So if there's a little bit of dangling bit and you're feeling confident, you're welcome to trim it back with either some nail clippers or some scissors. Once we've done that, if the bleeding's controlled, that's pretty much the end of it. I would use our SOOTHE Skin Protect and I would spray that area just to protect that nail where it's been exposed. If on the other hand, the bleeding hasn't been controlled, I will then either dip the exposed nail in a bit of cornstarch, or if it's just a nail that you've accidentally trimmed a bit short when you're trimming nails, I often find just rubbing it through a cake of soap does the trick. So when you've then got a controlled nail, you then either need to decide whether to bandage or not. I would recommend, if you've had trouble controlling the bleeding, it's always worth bandaging that nail for at least 3 hours just to give it that extra bit of support. So again, give it a little spray with our SOOTHE Skin Protect, and then we need to bandage it. So what we do with this is we're going to get our non-stick dressing, we're going to cover the nail, and then we're going to use our cotton bandage and secure it. The trick with feet is that it's a little bit trickier to wrap the foot because we need to wrap the whole foot rather than just around. So with feet, I will use one hand and I'm holding the bit of non-stick dressing, and then the other hand, I'm actually going to wrap over the top of the foot, hold it, and then come back again and hold it. So you can see both my hands are sort of stuck with the bandage there. And then I'm going to go sideways around the foot. It's a little bit awkward, but once you practiced a few times, you kind of get the hang of this one. And then we go up the foot until you've wrapped the whole foot. So what I'm doing is I'm roughly trying to wrap about 50% of the width of my previous wrap as I go up and down the foot. And you'll just wrap until you finish the bandage and secure the dressing. At this point, you then need to decide whether you need to call the emergency vet or not. If it was a really nasty torn nail and you had a lot of trouble bleeding, definitely worth calling the emergency vet and getting it seen to, because it may need some antibiotics or some more attention. Otherwise, I just leave them dressed for 3 to 5 hours, and I will then remove the bandage and see how they go. It's always worth an extra check of the bandage an hour after you pop it on, just to make sure there's no swelling on top of the bandage and you haven't popped it on too tight. So hopefully that helps you to understand how to manage a torn nail. If you have any questions, please feel welcome to email hello@shytiger.com.au. And of course, if you're ever worried, speak to your vet.